Eric's excited about our next guest, though. This is going to be awesome. I'm so excited about this.
Yeah, so lacrosse is fun. We've had opportunities over the last, long time to talk about lacrosse at different phases, as it was kind of a growing club sport. And then we had some really good club teams here that would win state titles, would go and compete at different tournaments in the West and perform really well. And it's a sport that's become a sanctioned sport from UHSAA for both boys and girls, if I'm not mistaken. And so we've got a couple of coaches in here. The season is young. It's just starting. They're starting to get into region play. And kind of excited to see where things are at. And last year, their season was taken away from them. So, yeah, let's talk some lacrosse.
Absolutely.
So, Troy Oldham, we've had you here. You're a friend of the program. You've been on with us before. You've done a lot with Green Canyon, with the Green Canyon Lacrosse Club. But you're not here alone. You brought somebody with you who's also kind of new to the Valley, sort of, but not sort of, with his own experience as well. Is it Bo?
Correct.
Bo Olsen. So, and you're with Logan, is that correct?
I am.
Awesome. So, thank you guys for coming down, first of all.
Yeah, you bet.
But, Troy, let me ask you first, just how long has lacrosse been a sanctioned sport now for UHSAA? In the state?
So last year was the first year that it was a sanctioned sport. So,
really, this is the first year.
Yeah, this is the first year. Our team got one game against Lone Peak down south. They're probably, they would have, if the season would have gone, they probably would have been first or second in the state.
Wow.
And we came off of a loss on that, ready to just kind of build, and then boom, COVID hit. So we got one game. We did get a chance to, at the end of the season, once the governor kind of made some changes to like have a few more kids on the field and a few more people around, we did hold a tournament. So we got the seniors a chance to play just a couple of like short tournament games. But other than that, yeah, our first season was kind of a flush.
And so, Bo, you're newer at Logan, but were you here last year, or was this your first year at Logan?
No, I was here last year, and same kind of situation. We played American Fork last year, got pretty handled by that team, but then we actually got two games. We played UMA, Utah Military Academy, and got a nice win, and then we were slotted to play Brighton, and then everything shut down. So, yeah, it is year one almost.
A question for both of you. We'll start with you, Bo. The sport of lacrosse has grown rapidly in the state of Utah. It is incredible, especially here in Cache Valley. Can you talk about the talent that is in the state of Utah that might be hidden or a quote-unquote secret to the rest of the country? Or do you feel like that talent has shown out to the rest of, colleges who might be recruiting for kids and might look at the state of Utah?
Right. Well, if you look up Bubba Fairman at Maryland and watch him, as we call, lay the wood, that's, I think, Utah lacrosse is physicality. We love to play hard. And when I was down in St. George coaching down there, we had a comp team that would play I forget the name now, Vegas, the Vegas League. And those Vegas kids would always talk about how hard the Utah kids hit. And I think that's my favorite part about Utah lacrosse, that other, colleges and other people see that physicality that we bring, because, when I started playing lacrosse at Mountain Crest in the early 2000s, I was a football kid, and lacrosse was just another chance for us football kids to go hit people. So we loved it, and I think that's true around the state as well.
Was your coach Doug Snow?
For football, yes, he was.
Who's your coach for lacrosse?
His name was Spencer Brown.
Yeah.
Okay. Spanish
cool.
teacher.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. For you, Troy, again, just the competitiveness and the growth of lacrosse here in the state of Utah, do you feel like it's getting the respect that it deserves, or do you feel like it's getting there?
Well, I think one of the first things that happened in the state of Utah to really make significance for lacrosse is when the University of Utah became a D1 NCAA team. So there's only one of a few in the West. University of Denver is a big powerhouse, usually always in the top 10, top 20. And having Utah come into the NCAA as a D1 team, and they brought one of the best coaches in the country, Brian Holman, came from North Carolina. He was the offensive coordinator when they won the national championship. So it really made a big kind of a exclamation point for lacrosse in the state of Utah. And then all the kids playing, all the high school, it just kind of almost felt like it validated us. And guys like Bubba going off, and then also Dodd. Brandon Dodd, who's from Logan, he's playing at Air Force and just ripping people up there too. And so we've had Utah has had some really good showings, and now there's this great aspiration of being able to possibly get a D1 opportunity to play. But at the same time, BYU has had national championship after national championship in the MCLA. University of Utah State won that a couple years ago in the Division II. It's come on, and it's kind of the fact that the upper level of the school is there. It's kind of legitimized it, and then also last year the PLL, the Professional Lacrosse League, which is the pros, they played at Zion Stadium. Unfortunately, nobody could go watch them because it was during COVID. But the best of the best at a professional level played here in Utah last year, and that really puts a big kind of punch to the sport in a very positive way.
That's awesome.
As the sport is growing, certainly there's got to be a youth league, right, to teach the sport, to help them understand what it is. How much of that is going on, or how much, or are you as coaches? There's a responsibility to go recruit and try to fill a roster. How much is it there, and you have to make tough decisions about who can and can't be on your team versus it's still a young team, and I got to figure out how to fill the roster out.
Yeah, so there is a Little League program in the Valley. I am Lax, Lacrosse, Intermountain Lacrosse, that they run. But at Logan, we don't have a lot of kids kind of coming up through the program, so I really put it on my seniors to go recruit a lot of multi-sport athletes at Logan. And I told my captains, both years, I've said, you need to go get athletes. And they did that. We got, D1 recruit Wyoming football player JJ Sargent to come play for us.
Wow.
And, I have to do a lot of recruiting, but it's fun. I think that's a lot of fun as a coach to go out and tell athletes, like, hey, do you want to, here, take this metal stick and go sword fight that guy. Hit him. And, athletes love to come out and they get a taste in their mouth for it, and they just love it. I've never had a kid come out to lacrosse and not love it. They fall in love with it, and they keep playing, and even guys like me, I still will suit up and find men's leagues because it's just fun.
Man, sorry, Eric. I gotta ask you both. What is the adjustment period for a multi-sport athlete who is maybe joining lacrosse as a newbie? What is that? What is the hardest thing for them to adjust to, and what is something that is easy for them to adjust to from being from a different sport to being a new lacrosse player?
Yeah, I'll jump into that because I've got multiple ones. I got basketball players, some soccer players, some football players, some wrestlers have all just joined up. The number one thing is the stick skills. A lot of the intensity that comes from football, the ability to play a two-man game, pick and rolls like you see in basketball. If you're a soccer player, you kind of get the way the field works with middies and attackmen. It's really the stick skills. And we've had a couple kids join the program in the last year or two, and you can tell just night and day, the ones who are outside of practice, hitting a wall, playing catch, are the ones that are now on our varsity team playing and getting good time. Even if they can hit big or they can, are fast, if they can get that stick skills or work on those, it's really evident in obviously their playing time and contribution to the team.
Wow.
But yeah, it's a great transition sport for a lot of those other teams. And like Bo said, being able to bring in a great football player and get him involved in the program kind of pumps everybody else up because they're like, wow, I'm playing this great athlete and my stick skills may be better, but man, he's faster, or he really knows how to set defense and hold, and I can learn from that.
What was it like a year ago? All the prep seasons taken away, and just trying to deal with those kids, especially your seniors that had it taken away. I mean, how hard was that? I know we're kind of rolling back to previous part of the conversation, but just how hard was it as coaches to try to work with those guys and just deal with what your situation was and try to make your way through it?
Well, it was devastating. I still have nightmares about looking into my seniors' eyes and having to tell them, like, your season's over. And it's through no fault of your own. It's just the way it is, and it was so disheartening. They just they were done. Fortunately, though, like we jumped on the ball pretty quick. We started talking about, well, what do we do if this isn't going to happen? And Skyview and Green Canyon took the ball and they went rolling on that summer tournament they were able to have. I mean, it wasn't any kind of replacement, but at least those seniors were able to have some lacrosse their senior year.
You'd asked a question about the youth leagues. I coached 5th graders, 6th graders, 7th and 8th graders, 9th graders, all the way varsity. And a lot of these kids I got to coach when they were in 5th and 6th grade. Watch them come up, watch how hard they worked, how much they love the sport. And then right as we get a sanctioned team, and I made a whole life change. So I can coach, right? And coach and teach and everything. And boom, on that day, like he said, it was a gut punch to pull those seniors in and say, guys, it's all your work is it's not going to go nowhere. There's still, you can go play college and club stuff, but this year's not happening. And there's a lot of tears, there's a lot of anger. But what I was proud of the boys that they did is they stayed on their workouts. We'd still see them up at the field just with their masks on and 2 people because we had to restrict that. They're up there playing catch and shooting and everything. And it's kind of what, like Bo was saying, it's one of those things that get in your blood, and it's hard to just walk away from it. And it's one of those sports, too, that like Bo was saying, like you can put your helmet on and go play in a men's league. I didn't get to do that with football after high school. But I played in college. When I was in grad school, I was able to jump in a club down in Arizona. When I moved to Seattle, I was able to get in a club, and now I'm able to coach. It kind of is that cool lifetime thing. So that's what I'm telling the kids, like, okay, this is a year, it's a blip, but man, you can give back to the program. You can play it in college. You can do some things like that. So anyway, so it was tough. It was super tough.
What is the off-season program like? How do you have them train, lift, what is the off-season program like to get ready for a lacrosse season, if that makes sense?
Yeah, so I'm we're both football coaches, so obviously we're pushing multi-sport athletes. And other than that, though, at Logan, I have a fall ball program. My associate head coach, Kaysen Eggers, he runs fall ball for kids that aren't involved in other sports, just getting on the grass, throwing around. But, like Troy was saying, wall ball, hit the wall, pass. Keep those stick skills sharp, because that is to a lacrosse player as running is to every other athlete. You have to be able to manage those stick skills. And weight room's big for us too at Logan. I think for a lot of programs, weight room is kind of a new thing. With it being club before, they didn't have a lot of access to the things that we have access to now as a sanctioned sport. So getting those kids to lift, there's some lacrosse players that think, wow, I have to lift as long as my stick skills are top notch, but then they go out and they break their collarbone. So definitely weight room and wall ball, I think, are the 2 biggest off-season preps for me.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that too. And we can see it in the kids that lifted through the off seasons or who played a second sport. They'll step into our winter workouts, and it's just they just move into it. The ones who didn't hit the weight room are the ones that are like you're saying, they're getting bounced around pretty hard. And it's kind of cool to watch them now come to us and say, hey, what can we be doing in the off season? Where before it was like, you got to do this, and now we got these great athletes that are joining our programs, and they're already built. They have good muscle tone, and the kids now like, yeah, I want that because that kid hit me and it took me out of my shoes. So now I want, what can I do there? So it's great how these different sports are leading into it. And like both said, with the schools and the resources that they have, the kids being able to hit the weight room and be involved in other sports, I think it's just going to continue to make the sport even better and better.
Hey, you guys, we got to take a time out. You guys okay to stick around for a little bit still?
Great.
I think you've still got a lot more questions.
Absolutely. I'm not done yet.
I do. So
I got to know what it feels like to get hit by a lacrosse ball.
In the Ritz Crackers?
Yeah, well, I think he's good enough that he can catch it before it gets there. I wouldn't be, but I just want to know if he cried.
I've seen what that looks like. You don't want that.
yes, I want stories.
All right, going to call timeout here in the Full Court Press. More about lacrosse here with Region 11. It's a new sport, so we'll more updates on that, what's going on with these teams, and what the region looks like coming up next in the Full Court Press. Eric France and Ajay Salveson here in the Full Court Press. Talking about lacrosse, the season is underway. We've been having fun talking about how kind of the sport came to be in this area, how it's grown, but let's talk about what's happening now.
Yeah, let's talk into now. Their season, I think, what you said, Troy, your guys are 4 games into the season now, right?
Yeah, we just finished a game against Waterford earlier this week, so we're 3-1, and we have our first home opener against Logan on tomorrow.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, do you guys play? Is that under the lights? Are these night games, day games, or how does that work with?
So the way the region scheduled it is varsity plays at 5, and then JV will follow.
Okay.
Sometimes there's changes based on agreements, But yeah, that's the standard schedule: varsity 5, JV after.
Do you normally play on the school's football field, or are there other venues, other places where you play?
Yeah, it just depends on the school. Like, we're both on the turf. I think Mountain Crest Skyview is all on turf. Ridgeline too. I believe Bear River plays on the middle school. But yeah, it just kind of depends school to school. We played on some gnarly grass fields in preseason.
But tell us, if you could, about your guys' team. I know you walked into a situation that may have been a little bit tough, so you're trying to regrow it with good talent. I mean, you talk about the Sargent kid and trying to bring energy and life back into the team. Are you seeing it start to come back, and what have you seen out of your team so far?
Yeah, so our face-off guy, Cole Hoagland, he's number 1 in the state right now. He's killing it. So it's fun to see him. He's kind of a kid that's grown up in the program. Cameron Cottle on defense is awesome. Daxton Daniels, Kyle Humphreys on our offensive side of the field, and we've got Matt Mason who's coming from football too. And yeah, the rebuilding is happening. Couple shaky games in the first part of preseason just because of those stick skills like we've talked about. But we're excited going into region. I mean, Green Canyon, they're good. They're awesome. They've always been a good program, and it's always fun to go play them and to really get that test to see if you're on that level.
Coach, you guys are obviously familiar with a lot of success. You guys have, as he said, kind of got yourself off to a great start so far, 3-1. What have you seen on your team so far in preparing for Logan?
Yeah, I mean, I think we had a tough game a couple weeks ago. We played Corner Canyon, number 1 team in the state.
Cool.
I mean, I've coached at the college, junior, high school level. I've never seen a team that was as nailed in, like Coach was saying about catching and passing, and they just so it was a bit of a humbling for us. But it also, just like anything, we come back, analyze film, we meet with our captains, we go through everything, and we looked at it as a great learning experience, and so. I think we're, we have a lot of great talent. I've got a lot of returning players who've played for, 6, 7, 8 years. I got Jake Lundeen, football, basketball guy, Jacob Regan. He's been playing for lacrosse for probably 6 or 7 years. Mason Anderson, one of our lead attacks. I actually believe he'll be one of the top attacks in the state once the stats start to roll. Wow. He just signed a Division II full scholarship with Adams State in Colorado.
Wow.
And so he's super excited about his senior year. And we've got a couple guys that joined us 2 or 3 years ago, 2 big football players, Dusty Gassaway and Jackson Curtis. And those guys work so hard in the off season, and they're just threats in their own way. So I was mentioning kind of the off hours, sort of like driving a super hot rod. Like, you got all this power, but the real thing is how can they play on the field, and that's kind of what we're working out in the preseason and seeing if we can tighten that machine up a little bit.
How would you assess where Region 11 is as a region with all the schools that are involved, as it being a new sport compared to maybe some of the others that you have to kind of go up against in the state?
I think pretty good. One of the things that's cool when I start seeing the schedules come out, like, there's not a team here afraid to play another team in the South. Like, Park City's always going to be good. Brighton, Lone Peak, Corner Canyon. They have great tradition. They're great programs, and we all kind of pick the teams we want to play and have gone down and worked with them, and you just learn. But I really think that our region can hang with any region. I really do. I think we have the talent. I think we have great coaches. It's so cool to see what Bo's doing with Logan. Kyle Bland at Skyview, he played for me for a few years, loves the game just as deep as he loves the game, and so he's a young professional, has taken time out to be a coach. Clay Christopherson, who's at Logan, is now at Ridgeline, and it's just cool to see the region up here is just strong, and Bear River comes out of nowhere, having not a program for many years, and they're a great team, and they just have a lot of great athletes. So I really think any of the teams in our region can go down and go toe-to-toe with any of the teams in the South.
Coach Oldham, forgive me, I think we've asked you before on this, but can you explain the state tournament or how that works? Do you play anybody in the state, or is that like one big group? Is it RPI, or how does it work?
Yeah, so it'll be similar to how it worked in the Intermountain Lacrosse League, at least I think for this next year, they said. So they'll pick out the top 16 teams based on RPI, And then and that'll be a Class A, and then they'll drop to the next, which will be a Class B. So the next 16 teams, and then everybody else will be a Class C, and they'll all drive for a state championship. But
Wow.
yeah, so there would be 3 state championships, not like it is now with 6A, 5A, 4A, but it's more of a one A, B, and C.
Huh? Wow.
Yeah.
I had a thought and it just escaped me.
Great. I'll ask a question while you're getting your thought together. But do you guys, as both coaches, in an honest answer here, feel like Regional 11 can compete with some of the best? I mean, Corner Canyon, those kind of teams. Do you guys feel like you're getting there to where you can compete with the best teams in the state of Utah?
Yeah, absolutely. There's always that stigma. I think most of us grew up in this valley.
I was going to say,
yeah,
that northern Utah stigma where they can't compete with Utah County South and all that.
And it's fun to go prove that wrong. Even when I was at Mountain Crest, those were some of my favorite games in football and lacrosse. I remember my senior year, we played Northridge in the second round. They were undefeated. We weren't. They slept on us, and we beat them triple overtime. So there is that opportunity of the rest of Utah saying, well, Cache Valley doesn't matter, but they're wrong. And we go out and we bring our athletes, and we always hit harder. I've always noticed that when we play teams in Salt Lake, Provo area, we always come out more physical. So whether that's any team from the valley.
Troy Oldham and Bo Olsen from Green Canyon and Logan High School lacrosse, respectively. The question I was going to ask was, you're 4 games into the season. How long does the regular season go before you start getting into a postseason?
It'll run up until the 12th of May, and we have games right up until, I think, the 10th. It's a little intense. It's you usually have a game on a Wednesday and a Friday, and so you're playing 2 games a week. We'll play every team in the region twice, and then we get to pick up a handful of other teams of non-conference or non-region teams.
And so, I guess just to piggyback off of that is it just all like we've seen with some other sports where you host, everybody plays one game at home and one game on the road against other region opponents?
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty standard fare with as far as
schedule. Yeah, I mean some of the teams that we picked up in the early season, we go season to season. So like we played Corner Canyon with the agreement that they'll come play here this next year, and we'll go down to Brighton on Tuesday, and the agreement they'll come here next year.
Last question for me: how do we find your guys' schedule? I mean, how can we find you guys and keep up to date with you guys and whatnot?
Well, for Logan, our schedule's on the website for Logan High, or you can follow us on social media, Logan Boys Lax on Instagram, and my parent rep, Kathleen Cottle, she does a really good job of keeping everyone informed.
Awesome.
Yeah, kind of same thing on the Green Canyon website. We're pretty active on social media. We have our Instagram handle is GCHS_Lax, and follow us there. And then Nick Sampson is our team mom, and she's kind of the person who has all the knowledge and all the power, but we just do what she tells us to do because she does such a great job. Yeah.
And, that really brings up a last question for me, too. Just that parent support, the community support for your teams, and how important that is, especially with it being a new sport, getting that buy-in and that connectivity and creating that sense of team in a relatively new sport that it is, especially if you're pulling guys from other sports. Saying, "Wait, now this is lacrosse. This is how we do it." I mean, what kind of effort does that take from a head coach and just others that you find to help put that all together?
Yeah, I'll just jump in this for Green Canyon. We're pretty fortunate in that we've had a kind of a long-standing tradition of our junior program, and some incredible people like Mick Sampson, Diana Cannell, that have kind of worked through the whole process and brought a lot of kids up. So by the time I get them, for the most part, they're pretty bought in the program. They're very willing to help out. And then some of the other athletes, the newer ones that join a little bit later, as they sit down against the parents and sit in the stands, they're also like, "Hey, this is how we do it. We do Rowdy right. We really encourage the players. We have great coaches and everything." And it kind of becomes a cool community feel. And I think they assimilate into the program pretty quickly.
Yeah, I ask a lot of my parents because I just want to coach lacrosse. I don't want to do any administrative stuff. But you do what you have to. But I mean, it takes a village, and I think that's true for this kind of sport. You've got stats, you've got end line runners, you got camera crew, clock crew, And without that parent support, like, you can't really run a season. So my parents at Logan, they do an awesome job. They are so dedicated. They're so involved with their boys' success, and keeping in touch with the coaches and letting us know that their boys appreciate us and all that good stuff. So if you're a parent out there, be involved in your kids' sports, because your coaches, they really appreciate it when you are.
Great point. Guys, thanks so much for coming down. Bo Olsen with Logan High. Welcome back to Cache Valley. Good to have a homegrown coach here in the mix. And Troy Oldham, I know you've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes to grow the sport in the valley as well at Green Canyon. So best of luck to both of you guys as your seasons are taking off, and best of luck as the region gets going as well.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Troy Oldham and Bo Olsen.